Today I'd like to make rather simple setup, more like a static setup, which is a spiral staircase, which you see a lot in architectural projects and probably could be used in games environment, probably in real world as well. So let me try that. I also like to make it procedural plus parametric, so that you can change the shape with various parameters. Okay, so I'll start with geo, and what I would like to do first is to make the base spiral shapes onto the space. So I'm just gonna use point triangle and change it to detail and use that to create a simple spiral setup. Okay, so let's open the editor and let's write it down. Okay, first of all, I also would like to make a null node. Name this controller as always. Change its color, and let's make some parameters here. Now in order to set up parameters, first of all I would like to see some reference image in order to see what kind of staircase I would like to make. Okay, so I used Pinterest to search for spiral staircase, and there are several interesting images, and from these images this time I would like to make something like this one, which looks more minimalistic but looks really cool. Or things like this one. This one's also looks cool, like these shape. Yeah, so I would like to try to make something similar to this shape or this kind of shape, with the rails to be like standing as a wall on next to the staircase. So let's try to do that. So for that, the parameter I would need is, first of all, I need a inner radius for this circle, and also the outer radius or the width of the staircase. So let's make first of all a inner radius. Okay, and could be like 0 to 10, or maybe it's too big. Probably 0 to 3, if 1 is 1 meter, and maybe a little bit less, like 2. Okay, and there's also a width of the staircase. This could also be from 0 to like 5. 5 is too big for real staircase, but it's okay since it's virtual. Also, you would like to have a height, the whole height of the staircase, which could go from 0 to 10, 20, something like that. And also a step height, a height of the step, each step. And also I would like to make kind of a special parameter which is called walkable height. You see that the normal staircase, you have this space from the bottom of the staircase to the other bottom, the bottom that's looking from the staircase, standing on the staircase. You have to have some space in between the spirals so that people can walk through. So normally should be like 2 to 2.5 meters, I guess, for people to walk through. So I would like to have that as a parameter as well. So let's name it walkable height and have the parameter between, well, could be for kids, so maybe I could start from 1 to 5 probably. Okay, so let's start with these parameters. Let's just set the random parameter for now, like these. Step height should have less range, I guess, from 0 to 1. And the walkable height around here, okay. Now in the point wrangle, I'll name this spiral base. And since I made it a detail, and for the code, the vex code, first of all I want to import the parameters that I just have made. First of all, the inner radius from controller, inner radius. Okay, also the width. Also the height. And the step height. Finally, the walkable height. And the first thing I would like to have is the information, like how many steps you would need to create. So I'll name it step num, and you can calculate that with the height divided by step height and use rint to round the number. So that's the number of steps that I'm gonna have for this setup. So I'm gonna use for loop to loop through these numbers. Step num number like this, and for each I have to, first of all, I have to make a height of the spiral position, the step position. So I'll name it h, which is I times step height. Okay, and also since this is gonna be a spiral, I'm gonna have to make an angle for each steps. In order to do that, first of all, I would like to have a whole angle of the spiral, like what's the maximum spiral angle. And for that I could use, well, I'll name it total angle, and for that I could divide height by walkable height. And you can see that if you look at the stairs from here to here, it's 360 degrees, right? So and I set this height to be walkable height, so the walkable height stands for the angle of 360 degrees. So I can, if I divide height by walkable height and multiply it by 360 degrees, which is same as the pi times 2.0, I will get the total angle by calculating it like this. So using the float total angle, I can also get the step angle, each angle for the steps, by dividing total angle by step num. Okay. Now I would like to first set the detail attribute, or well, actually this one doesn't have to be inside a for loop, could be outside a for loop, I think, since I'm not using any I information right now. So apply, yeah, I don't get any errors, so that's fine. And I would like to set this step angle as an attribute to the detail, so I would say step angle for the float to be step angle. Okay, now so right now I have step height, the height for each steps, which should go from bottom to top until the height, the position of height. So, and with the step angle information, I could already make a spiral curve or spiral point position. So let's make that. So I'll name it position pos, and set it to be, the x will be inner radius times cosine step angle times I, and the height will be h, and for the z, inner radius simple trigonometry step angle times I, small I, lowercase I. Okay, so I should be getting the spiral position by writing like this. So let's see if I get that correct by adding the point, actually the point. So I'm name it point I stands for inner, and use add point to add this point to this specific position. Apply, and you can see that yes, I'm having some points on a spiral position, and if I change the inner radius here, it is changing, and the height, yeah, it's changing its height as well. And if I change the walkable height, it's changing the total angle of the spiral as well. So that's good. Okay, now I also want to make a outer point position so that I can make a spiral steps. So in order to do that, well, first of all, since I'm gonna make a outer points as well, I'm gonna set these point, the previous points, the ones that I just made, to have clearly to show that clearly this is grouped as inner points. So I'm gonna set the group by set point group name inner and the PTI with 1. Okay. Also, I would like to set a normal to upwards, so that afterwards I would like to extrude it upwards. So I would like to set the normal to be upwards, like these points to go to the Y direction. So let's set the point attribute the attribute name should be n, and at PTI, and the angle or direction will be 0, 1, 0, which is upward, the plus Y direction. Now let's hit apply, and let's make an alter point now. First of all, I need to know since these points gonna go like perpendicularly going outside from the current point position, from the center to the current point position. So let's make a normal direction first. I'll name it deer, and use the normalize to normalize the position X, position Z. And in this way you can just use the X and Z coordinates of each point and just ignore the Y, because you don't need a height vector value in order to get the perpendicular vector. So I'm just resetting to 0 for the Y, and this direction will be an angle which goes the vector that goes to the perpendicular for the spiral. Okay, and let's make a PTO, which stands for the PT outer point, at point, and at from current position for inner points plus direction times width. And if I apply it, now I can see the outer spiral points have been made like these. And let's set the group as well for this one. Set point group outer PTO 1, and also set the normal attribute to go upwards for this one as well. Okay, and finally, well, I guess I could just go with this and apply and accept. And if I look at the geometry spreadsheet, I'm now having those points, the number of 50 points right now, which has both either inner group or outer group. So what I want to do next is to split up into two 2 points, which I could do by but in order to make a steps, I guess I would like to do one more thing in the detail wrangle. So let's go back, and on the final line, let me add one more code or 2 more codes to add the line between the points so that I can probably easily make a step using that line. So what I just need to do is pretty simple. I have PDY and PDO, so I'm just have to connect those 2 points with the add prim with the polyline type. And what I'm gonna connect is PTI plus PTO. Okay, if I accept, now I have those lines. And finally, let me add, I'm not sure I'm gonna need it, but let me add an ID for each lines. So the ID starts from 0 from the bottom and go forward, increment it by 1. So that will be pretty easy, just to set prim attriv. I'll name this ID and prim to the prim, and I'll just set the I value as an attribute. Okay, now I have these curves, lines. I can use those to create a step, actual step. So since I guess I need to go through these lines one by one in order to make the steps, or maybe if I use Vex exclusively, maybe I can just do it inside of Vex, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna use a for each primitive to go through all the lines one by one. And use for each loop to actually create a steps. Now in order to make a step, what I need is to, first of all, I need to make extrusion from this curve to the next curve, which right now it doesn't exist, but what I need, the curve that I would need in order to make steps is actually, the profile is pretty much similar. The angle for the curve is pretty much similar to the next one. Only difference is that this is step height higher than the first one, so I want to bring the next curve to drop down to the same level of the previous line, so that if I use those two to make use something like polyloft, I could make a flat surface, which I could then use extrude to make a step. So the easiest thing I could think of to make that, make the projected curve in order to polyloft, I could just rotate this line from the axis y axis on the 0, 0, 0 position by the step angle, so that it will come to the same position as the next one, but it is already projected on the floor because you're just rotating it with the y-axis. So I'm gonna use a transform, and now I need to know how much angles that I would like to rotate, but I already have that information, which is in the detail information attribute, this one, which I used it and which I applied it here. So let's get that one. Now the expression I would need to make, well, the position, I think this is the one I have to rotate. Let me check. Oops. So if I change this, yeah, I'm changing the rotation. So should be minus detail. I'm gonna use OP input, and the name was step angle and the first value, and since this is written in radians, but what I need is the degrees for the transform, so I can divide this by pi times 180 degrees. Now, this should give a rotation that I need. Probably. So let's merge the previous one and the next one. Oops. And make a loft. Now I can already see a basic setup for the spiral steps, spiral staircase. Now what I need to do, what I want to do next is to make a thickness for the steps. So I could use a extrude, poly extrude, to actually extrude it. So I need to extrude it on the minus direction, so, and the value I need to extrude is here, step height. So I'm gonna copy this parameter and paste it to here. And the bottom is not closed, so I'm gonna check this one out. And the normal is a bit weird right now, so I'm gonna fix that using the normal node like this, and it's crisp. Okay, now this is good for the steps. Now I got the base step bases. If I try to change those parameters like inner radius, width, height, or the step height, or the walkable height, I can see that the parameter is changing the shape of this spiral. Well, this itself already looks like a spiral staircase, but I want to make it more realistic. So I'm gonna make a rail wall, rail partition or something like, I'm not sure what's the correct name, but I'm gonna make a rail. So let's go back to this base spiral setup, and let's pick up only the outer points and the inner points. So I'm gonna use the delete node, and first of all I'm gonna type inner and say delete non-selected for the points, and this one I get the inner points. For the outer points, I'll type it outer, and this one I'll get only the outer points. Now let's start with the inner one. First of all, I want to make a polyline between those points. So I could use an add, and for setup I could go to the polygon, particle polygon, and by group, and now it gives me those curves. And right now the point resolution is okay, but if I have like higher step height, suddenly the spiral looks a bit more jaggy, more polygonal. If I want to make it smoother, then I would need to use a resample. And well, the default setup still makes it jaggy, so I'm gonna set the treat polygon as to interpolating curves, which always use the current point, the original points, and make a interpolated curve like this. And this is pretty good. And there's a parameter for resampling the length. Now for that one, I think I could use and add another parameter for that one. I'll name it rail res, stands for rail resolution, and could go from 0 to 0.1. Copy this parameter and paste it here. Okay. Now at this point I could make a subnet like this, and I'll call it inner curve. And I'm just gonna copy this, copy and paste it, and bring it here, and I'm gonna name this outer curve. Now I think the problem here is that if I go to here, well, it seems okay. Okay, there's no problem. So now I have inner and outer curve. Now the next thing I would like to do is to let's make a wall, the rail wall, which I'm referring to this part, this part. So let's try to make that. Now the step that I could think of is to first extrude this curve upward, and then extrude again to the outward, like to the perpendicular direction, so that it will thicken the rail wall. And I could also add some nice detail on top of the wall, maybe a wavy detail, to make it a little bit more interesting than the photo. So let's try to do that. I'm just gonna go with the, okay, this time I'm gonna go with the outer curve. Now first of all, I'm gonna extrude the curve to the upward, and I can just do it because right now the normal of the points going upward. Yeah, so I should be able to get the, oops, I think I need to set some options. I'm gonna use a point normal, and use the existing. And this way it goes upward if I use the poly extrude. Now let's add another parameter called rail height. Okay. And this could go from 0 to something like 5. And also let's make another parameter which is called rail thickness. And this could be like from 0 to 1. Apply. And let's set the height and the thickness. Copy this height first and paste it to the extrusion. Okay, now also what I want to do next is that I kind of want to change the detail of the top of this rail to have a wavy detail, like have a wavy patterns on just on the top. So in order to do that, I need to somehow retrieve only the points that is on the top part of the rail from this extruded primitive. So what I can do first is that right now the point position is a bit hard to use. So first of all, I'm gonna use sort to sort out the points, all the points to go. The index of the points will be sorted by the value y, which is the height. And if I look at the IDs again, now it's like going from 0 to value, and at some point this one goes, because this is higher than this one, and goes like this. And what I need is that I don't need those bottom points, but I just want to modify the top parts of the points. So what I can do, I could compare with the original spiral point with the extruded points, and if there's no duplicated points, then that means, which means the points is belongs to the top part of the rail. So use that info to modify the value. So in order to do that, I'm gonna use a detail wrangle again. And write some vex function to actually do that. I'm gonna change it to detail and connect the sorted out point plus primitive to the first input, and connect the original spiral point, which is just on the bottom of the rail, to the second input. Now let's write something. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna write on the point wrangle. I would like to make the name to be detail rail wall. Okay, and First of all, I want to import the wave rail wave height parameter. Which did I make it? Nope. Okay, let's make that first. So I'll call it rail wave height, rail wave height, and the range is from probably from 0 to 1. Okay, and also a rail wave frequency, which stands for the how many waves you want to have for the rail detail. And this could be an integer, or I don't know, maybe 10 is fine. But I guess I would like to make it as a degree. So let's make it 180 for maximum. Okay. Apply, accept. Let's give some numbers here and copy. Let's go back here, and rail wave height is from the controller. Rail wave height, rail wave frequency, controller rail wave frick. Okay, first of all, I would like to make an empty array to store all the points that is on the top part of the rail, and make a for loop to go through all the points in the rails, which is these points, by writing like using endpoints to get all the lengths of the points. And first of all, let's get the position of the point. And also get the near point index with this value, these points, so that I can get which one is close. So the input is from the 1 and looking for the position, and get that near point position. Okay, and finally calculate the distance between the current point position on the rail wall, which is this one, and the one that's found on the near point, which is searched from the bottom part of the rail. What's this? And the thing is that if the distance is pretty much close to the 0, the point, which means the point belongs to the bottom part of the rail. But if the distance is bigger than 0, like could be like 0.01. Then the point belongs to the top part of the rail. So I would like to append that point index to the PTS array. Now after doing that, let's make another loop, and at this time go through all the points in the PTS array, which means you're only looking at the points which is on the top part of the rail, and get that position. And also let's add some wave patterns on top of the rails, like just on the Y direction, to make some detail. So I would like to add another vector, and the x and y, x and z should be 0. Only the y value should have some value, and that value could be calculated like this: rail wave height times sine. Now I times pi divided by 180 degrees, which makes it radians, times the, I'm gonna use the rail wave frequency. Now the rail wave frequency, how do I wanna use this? I could just use it as a step angle for the sine wave or the whole wave angle, but just gonna use it as a step angle. So I'm gonna just multiply rail wave frequency and 0. Good. And finally update the point position by using set point attrib and the p attribute at the PTSI position with the updated pos. Now let's accept, and I'm getting an error somewhere. This one. Okay. Oh yeah. I'm missing a variable. Okay. Now here we have some detail on the top of the wall with the wavy pattern. If I decrease this number, the wave should be more or less obvious. You can also change the height of the wave like this. Now that's good. Okay. Now I would like to do exactly the same things for the inner curve, so I'm gonna just make a subnet. Now the detail just disappeared. I guess it's because the link to the controller have just been changed in the wrangle node, so I think I have to update that. So outer rail wall. Let's go inside here and look at the expression and parameters. Now the distance, currently it's not looking on top of the network, so I have to add another // okay. And also for the wrangle, I have two parameters imported. So I have to add dot dot slash and dot dot slash here. Now I got the result that I want. Okay. Now let's copy this and paste it next to for the inner curve, and I'll rename this inner rail wave. I mean inner rail wall. Okay. And let's merge these two together. And let's extrude, poly extrude to make it thicken. So if you look at the normal of the created wall, the both inner wall and outer wall is facing the same distance, same direction, like toward the center, which is problematic for making a poly extrude because it's just gonna extrude to the same direction like this. So for the outer wall, I would like to make it extruded outside, facing outside, toward outside. So what I can do is just reverse the normal for the outer wall. So I can use the reverse, connect it here, and now the outer wall just goes outside and the inner wall just go inside toward the center. That's good. Now I have given the rail thickness parameter here, so I'm just gonna copy this and paste it in here. Good. And also, well, at this point I could try to see how it looks like if I merge these together. And right now the wall is a bit too high compared to the steps, so I'm would like to transform or move this step height lower to the Y direction. So I'm gonna copy the step height, copy parameter, and paste it here with a minus. Oops. Okay, now it's been hidden, and also I also would like to hide the bottom part of the staircase, like this one, the bottom part of the steps, to make it more like this kind of geometry. So let's make that one. For that one, I think it's pretty much simple. I'm gonna just use this inner curve and outer curve and loft it together. So let's make a merge, connect the inner curve and connect outer curve, and make a poly loft to bridge them together like this. And let's disconnect this one and connect this one to see if it's correct. Also I need to move the bottom part of the rail case to go step height below, so I'm gonna, or I can just merge these together and move this lower with the step height. Yeah. And also I see some weird normal value for the rail wall, so I'm gonna finalize with the normal node to make it more, to make the edge more crisp. Okay, looks good. And finally, merge all the steps and wall together to finalize. Good. Now let's make it more easy to see. I'm gonna change the background to the light and change the color of the wall to be a little bit closer to the black color. Yeah. And for the steps, let's make it a little bit darker, I guess. Yeah, something like this. Okay, this is kind of almost done. Another thing maybe I could add is, well, this one doesn't have, but some of the rail, well, actually not many rails have, but some rails have something, this kind of column. So maybe I could add a column as additional detail, and maybe I could also switch if I should have a column or not. So let's make a toggle to have a column. Okay, and apply. And for the column, it's much easier. Let's make a circle, make it on the ZX plane. And for the size is the inner, I'm gonna use the inner radius, copy parameter, and paste it on the uniform scale. Now it's a bit bigger than the current staircase inner radius because I have the the rail thickness, which has this value. So I'm just gonna copy this and subdivide with the uniform scale, paste it here. Now I should be having a correct radius for the column, so I'm gonna make an extrude, poly extrude now. Let's bring it here, and the height, I could use the height to make the extrusion height. Now it's on the other direction, so I'm gonna make it minus and close the back. And let's see. Okay, and also I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna use a switch so that and also make the merge with this one. Okay, now I see some problem with the inner rail extrusion. Let's check it out. Okay. The extrusion seems not working correctly, so let's go back here and see what's wrong. Okay, I was missing the outer back output back. Okay, it's good. Now let's go back to the wall. Okay, gonna connect this one, and so right now I have the one and the rail, the staircase, rail wall with the column or without the column. So I'm gonna put the without column one to the first input of the switch, and the with column to the second input of the switch. And I'm gonna copy the value of toggle, copy parameter, and paste it on here, the select input. So right now the toggle is off, so there's no column. If I click it, I'm gonna have a column. Now connect that to the normal, and I should be getting an option to have whether I should have a column or not. Cool. Maybe I could give a column a little bit higher, like the height of the step wall, rail wall. So I'm gonna copy the rail height here and go to the extrusion of the column and give another value here. Okay, it's cool. Now this is kind of done, and let's see what I can make with these parameters and procedural setup. Now I have the inner radius, width, height. I could hide the column. I could change the step height, each step height. The walkable height, if I make it too low, only the kids can go through. And the rail height, I can make it really like a wall. Or the rail thickness, which is massive. The wave height, I can just go without the wave, or if you want to add some wave like this. And you could also change the step angle for the wave. Yeah, and that's about it. You could also change the quality, the resolution of the rails. Yeah, that's about it. Okay. Well, I hope you find it interesting. Thank you.